In a poor neighborhood, a 22-year-old black college student balanced school and multiple jobs while, during a children's music concert, tensions rose when a member of the Hells Angels and his daughter were denied entry by security. Despite judgment from the crowd, she secretly helped the little girl experience the show. A white coworker reported her and she was fired. But from that small act of kindness, a wave of change began, and an unexpected door opened for both families. Before we dive in this story, let us know where you're watching from. We love to hear your thoughts. The morning sun broke gently over the row of tired rooftops in East Brookside, casting pale orange light through cracked blinds and onto the chipped linoleum floor of a small apartment. Steam hissed softly from the kettle in the corner. Maya stood barefoot in the kitchenette, flipping eggs in a pan that had lost its non-stick coating years ago. The soft clink of her mother's spoon against a chipped ceramic mug echoed from the tiny living room. Maya's hoodie clung to her lean frame, worn from too many washes, too many night shifts. She moved quickly, methodically, she always did. Her textbooks were stacked on the counter beside a wrinkled time card and a half-empty bottle of aspirin. There was no time to sit, no room to rest. "Don't forget your lunch," her mother called out, voice husky from the cleaning chemicals she'd breathed her whole life. "I'll eat between shifts," Maya replied gently, stuffing a granola bar into her bag. She kissed her mother on the cheek, then paused, just for a second, hand lingering at the door. "You okay, baby?" Maya turned, smiled. "Just tired. Finals next week. But I got this." She didn't mention the overtime. She never did. By 9 a.m. the city park was alive. Colorful balloons bobbed above the entrance to the Children's Music Festival, where pastel banners waved under the breeze. Laughing children ran ahead of their parents, tugging at sleeves and hands, cotton candy already melting on small fingers. Up front, the line snaked toward the metal barricades, where two staffers scanned tickets under a white canopy. Security watched from a distance, arms crossed, sunglasses low. Maya stood behind the scanner, focused and steady. Her thick curls were pulled back into a tight bun, and her uniform polo shirt oversized tucked into faded black jeans. For 2 hours she smiled politely, nodded thanks, and listened as 100 tiny voices babbled about puppets and bubble machines. She didn't mind. There was something soothing in the repetition, something grounding. "Hey!" a voice barked beside her. Tom, white, 30-something, always chewing something he never offered, elbowed her. "What?" Maya glanced over without breaking stride. "Take the front left group. They're holding things up." "Already on it." Tom smirked like he was doing her a favor, then turned away. Maya inhaled, counted to 3, kept working. Then the air changed. It wasn't loud, just heavier. Maya felt it before she saw it. A tension in the crowd. Subtle shuffling, eyes shifting sideways, conversation suddenly muted. A man approached, brawny and weathered, holding a little girl in his arms. His presence was impossible to ignore. Black leather vest adorned with patches, faded denim, and a thick tattoo sleeve that ran from his neck to his knuckles. The words "Hell's Angels" curled across his back like a warning. But the little girl? She couldn't have been more than 8. Chestnut hair in a loose ponytail, a pink tutu over leggings, her eyes wide, scanning the balloons, the colors, the stage beyond the gate. Maya's heart clenched. Some mothers clutched their children tighter. One family stepped out of line completely. Tom saw it too. He stiffened, then stepped forward with practiced hostility. "No entry," he said flatly. "Rick?" The biker paused, his voice calm, deliberate. "I bought the tickets online, just here for the music." Tom crossed his arms. "Doesn't matter. Rules say no club members. Hell's Angels are banned from public gatherings like this." "I'm not wearing colors, it's a jacket." Rick nodded toward his daughter. "She's the one who wants the show, not me." Tom's lip curled. "Nice try. You people always have an excuse, but we're not risking a scene, not with families." "You people?" Maya said before she could stop herself. Tom didn't turn to her. "Don't start, Maya." She stepped forward, voice firm. "He's not causing trouble. He's got a kid. Just let them through. I'll keep an eye on them." Tom finally faced her, eyes cold. "You'd like that, wouldn't you? Bikers and, well, birds of a feather?" Maya's jaw clenched, her fists tightened by her sides, but she didn't rise to it, not today, not here. Rick lowered his daughter gently to the ground. Emily clutched his leg, confused, anxious. Tom was already signaling to a nearby security guard. Maya turned to her coworker beside her, whispered something, handed off the scanner, and walked away from her post. Outside the gate, Rick was adjusting Emily's sweater when Maya jogged up behind them. "Wait," she said. He turned, skeptical. "I'm sorry, for that?" Maya said, voice softer now. "I didn't want her to miss this. It's not right." Rick studied her a moment. He looked tired, not just physically, deeper than that. Then he said, "People like me, we get used to the door closing. Just didn't think it'd slam in her face, too." Maya knelt to Emily's eye level. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Emily," the girl whispered. Maya smiled. "Hi, Emily." "I'm Maya. Would you wait here with your dad a little bit longer? I have an idea." Emily blinked. "Will we get to see the music?" Maya looked at Rick, then nodded. "I hope so," she said, and turned back toward the gates, her steps quiet but determined. Maya stood beneath the crooked shadow of a canvas tarp that flapped lazily in the early wind, the kind stretched between steel poles behind the east gate, where most guests never wandered. The hum of the crowd pulsed beyond the security fences like an orchestra of joy and noise, rising with every trumpet trill from the stage. But back here, between dumpsters and rusted gear bins, it was quiet, still. She turned to Rick and Emily, her voice low, measured. "If you wait here, just 15 minutes. I need to finish clearing the last wave at the gate. Once it calms down, I'll come back. I'll take her inside myself, through this side path. You won't have to push through the crowd." Rick tilted his head, frowning. "You'd do that?" His tone wasn't skeptical, just cautious, like a man who'd learned the hard way not to expect kindness without cost. Maya nodded. "She deserves to see the show." Her gaze dropped to Emily. "Just wait here, behind this tarp, out of sight." He hesitated, looked down at his daughter. Small fingers curled around the worn seam of his jacket. Her face was flushed from the heat and maybe from shame she didn't understand. Rick's jaw flexed. "I don't want to cause more trouble for you. They already—" "You're not causing anything," Maya said, firm. "This isn't about you, it's about her." Emily's eyes lit with a flicker of something Maya couldn't quite name. Hope, maybe, or disbelief so pure it still had wings. "Really?" the girl asked, her voice so soft it cracked mid-syllable. "We'll see the music?" Maya smiled and crouched down. "Not we, just you, but yes. 15 minutes, you stay with your dad until then, all right?" Emily nodded, wide-eyed, and hugged her father's side, as if afraid the offer might vanish if she moved. Rick exhaled, long and slow. "All right," he said. "We'll be here." Maya gave one last look, memorizing the way they stood. Guarded man, hopeful child, before turning on her heel and walking briskly back toward the main gate. Her chest felt tight, not with nerves, but with something sharper. Controlled rage, maybe, or a sadness that had been waiting years to take root. The crowd was thicker now, more families, more children tugging impatiently at ticket stubs, and mothers half jogging to keep up. Maya slipped back into her place without a word. The scanner blinked red, then green, then red again, and she worked with mechanical focus, each beep an anchor, grounding her until the line began to thin. Beside her, Tom glanced over. "Thought you took a break. Had to use the bathroom," she replied curtly. He narrowed his eyes but didn't press. That was fine. Let him stew. By the time the last of the ticket holders had filtered through, the sun had climbed higher, brushing gold over the carnival flags and inflatables. The announcer's voice echoed through the trees. "Please take your seats. The performance begins shortly." Maya handed her scanner to a colleague. "Cover me a minute?" The girl blinked, then nodded, surprised. Maya didn't wait for questions. She cut left through the vendor alley, past popcorn carts and balloon stands, then behind the generator tent. The backstage access tunnel, normally ignored during kid events, was wide open. She ducked behind a stack of prop crates, heart pounding now, not from fear, but the weight of responsibility. She was gambling her job, she knew it, but some things were worth more than a paycheck. Behind the canvas tarp, Rick was still there. Emily sat cross-legged on the grass, humming to herself in a voice only she could hear. "They let you leave?" Rick asked quietly. "They didn't notice." Maya extended a hand toward the girl. "Ready?" Emily stood and slid her small fingers into Maya's without hesitation. Rick knelt down. His voice cracked as he kissed his daughter's forehead. "Be good. Stay close to her. I'll be right here." Emily nodded. "Promise." Maya led her through the tarp into the labyrinth of back alleys behind the stage, down a corridor of forgotten lawn chairs and mop buckets, until they reached a gap in the fence that opened directly into the audience's far left. From there, the show was just a few steps away. As they approached, a new burst of music exploded from the stage, bright, childish, jubilant. Maya glanced down to see Emily's face transformed, lit by wonder and color and sound. The girl froze in place for a second, mouth parted in awe, then smiled so hard it looked like her cheeks might hurt. For that moment, all Maya could think was, this is what she should remember. Not the gate, not the stairs. This, and for now at least, they had 15 minutes. The music was loud but not overwhelming, light-hearted, whimsical, full of the laughter of children who had no idea how much the world could bruise. From their quiet corner behind a row of plastic chairs and discarded popcorn bags, Maya sat beside Emily like a sentry wrapped in gentleness. Emily clapped her hands to the beat, lips moving in sync with the song she clearly knew by heart, her cheeks flushed with joy, eyes wide, body swaying as if her soul had found a rhythm it had long been waiting for. For the first time that morning, Maya allowed herself to breathe. She watched the little girl, and something in her loosened. Not because things were perfect, far from it, but because, for this one sliver of time, kindness had carved a space through all the noise, and it mattered. She didn't see Tom at first, just felt the way the air suddenly thickened, like a cold front slipping in behind her. When she turned and saw him standing near the aisle, his arms stiff, jaw clenched, eyes locked on her like a loaded gun, her stomach sank. Time slowed. Emily was still singing softly, unaware. But Maya could already see where this would go. Tom didn't yell. He didn't need to. He stepped forward, knelt slightly, looked Emily over with a smile so thin it could slice glass, then turned to Maya. "You left your post," he said, quiet, almost pleasant. "Brought her in after she was turned away, that about right?" Maya stood slowly, shielding Emily with her body, though she knew it was too late. "She's not causing trouble. We're sitting out of the way, no one's even noticed." Tom tilted his head. "Well, someone did. Me." Before Maya could speak again, the event manager appeared. Mid-40s, pressed slacks, shirt too tight around the collar, and a permanent expression of inconvenience. He looked at Maya like she was a stain on his carpet. "Is this her?" he asked. Tom nodded once. The manager didn't waste time. "You're done." "I'm sorry?" Maya asked, heart pounding. "You're done," he repeated, louder. "Take the child, leave the area, and don't come back. You're terminated." Maya opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She glanced down at Emily, whose singing had stopped. The girl was looking up at her now with quiet confusion, as if she'd missed a line in a story and didn't understand why the ending had changed. Maya nodded, slow and tight, lips pressed into a thin line. She didn't argue, didn't plead. What would have been the point? The decision had been made before they even walked over. She turned to Emily and held out her hand. "Time to go, sweet girl." Emily didn't ask why. She simply reached out, small fingers slipping into Maya's palm, trusting and light. Together they exited the side aisle, back through the narrow corridor of tarps and crates and shadows, the music growing distant behind them. They returned to the tarp. Rick sat exactly where she'd left him, one arm draped over his knee, the other holding a half-empty juice box he'd bought for Emily. When he saw them, he stood up, brushing grass from his jeans. Maya bent down and smiled at Emily. "You were amazing in there," she said softly. "Really brave. You should be proud." "Why did we leave so soon?" Emily asked, frowning just a little. Maya glanced toward Rick, then back at the girl. "The show ended early for us today, but you got the best part." Rick walked over, lifting Emily gently into his arms. "She okay?" he asked. "She's more than okay," Maya said, and forced a smile. "She's a star." Rick gave her a long look, grateful but tired. He had no idea what had just happened, and she had no reason to tell him, so she didn't. She simply nodded, stepped back, and watched them go. That night, in a small one-bedroom rental that still smelled faintly of damp wood and gasoline, Rick stirred a pot of spaghetti over a camping stove balanced on a folding table. Emily sat cross-legged on the couch, hair damp from her bath, watching a cartoon with the sound low. The flickering light danced across her face. Dinner was quiet. Not sad, just ordinary. Rick asked about the songs, and Emily answered between bites, giggling about a performer dressed as a giant bee who tripped over a bubble machine. When her plate was empty, she excused herself and curled under the mismatched blankets in the corner where her bed was set up. Rick washed dishes slowly, letting the warm water run longer than needed, trying not to think too hard about the day. He was grateful, really. Maya hadn't needed to do anything, but she had, and it had mattered. As he turned off the faucet, he heard her voice. "Daddy?" He dried his hands and stepped into the room. "Yeah? Em?" She sat upright in bed, eyes drowsy but uncertain. "That man with yellow hair, he yelled at Maya." Rick blinked. "What do you mean?" Emily pulled the blanket to her chin. "He said she didn't need to come back tomorrow, that she broke the rules." Rick's breath caught in his throat. "She tried to say sorry," Emily continued, "but he just yelled more. I think she was sad." He stood still for a long moment. A clock ticked somewhere behind him. The cartoon had ended. Emily had already drifted back toward sleep. Rick sat down slowly at the foot of her mattress, stared at the floor. Every word landed like a stone in his chest. Maya had lost her job because of him. Because she had tried to show kindness in a place that didn't allow room for it, and he hadn't even known. His hand tightened into a fist over his knee. He got up, walked to the small cabinet beside the front door, and pulled out a dusty phone charger. It took him a few minutes to find the number. He hadn't used it in nearly 10 years. When it started ringing, his hand trembled slightly. He wasn't sure if he wanted it to connect, but it did. "Hello?" came a deep voice, smooth and familiar. "Daniel," Rick said, voice hoarse. Silence. Then a long exhale. "Wow, it's been what, 8 years?" "More." "What's going on, man? You okay?" Rick swallowed hard. "I'm not calling to borrow money or ask for a place to crash. I need to tell you something that happened today." And then he did. Everything. About the woman at the gate, the judgment, the insult, the girl who stepped in, not knowing him, not owing him, who risked her job and lost it for a child she'd never met. When he finished, the line was silent for a moment. Then Daniel said, low and steady, "Send me her address tomorrow." Rick closed his eyes. "I'll take care of the rest." The door creaked softly as Maya stepped inside, the weight of the day clinging to her clothes like soot. Her sneakers scraped the scuffed linoleum as she set down her bag, careful not to let it thud. She didn't want questions, not tonight. Her mother looked up from the kitchen table, eyes narrowing with quiet concern. "You're home early?" Maya kept her gaze down, her voice barely above a whisper. "The event ended sooner than expected." That was all she gave. Her mother didn't push. She only nodded, eyes lingering for a moment longer than necessary, then turned back to the bowl of soup in front of her. The silence that followed wasn't cold. It was the kind born from years of understanding what not to ask. In her bedroom, Maya shut the door with a gentle click. The small space smelled of paperbacks and lavender detergent. She lay on her side, hugging her pillow like it might hold her together. The tears came slowly, without sound, sliding into the fabric beneath her cheek. Not from rage, not even grief, but from the kind of exhaustion only the deeply decent ever feel. The kind that comes after giving and losing and saying nothing. Outside the door, her mother sat quietly. She didn't knock, just spoke through the old wood with a kind of love only time can teach. Don't burn yourself out trying to make the world better than it wants to be. Just finish school. Let me worry about the rest. Maya didn't answer. Not because she didn't hear, but because she did. The next morning, the sun was barely above the rooftops when a black SUV eased to a stop in front of their duplex. It didn't belong. Its paint gleamed, the tires didn't crunch, just rolled in like something out of another life. Maya was brushing crumbs off the front porch when the driver stepped out. A tall man, mid-40s, pressed charcoal blazer, clean-cut but not polished in a corporate way. There was kindness in the lines of his face, something deliberate in the way he walked, not rushed, not entitled, just purposeful. He held nothing in his hands but carried presence like a second skin. "Miss Carter?" he asked. Maya stood straight. "Yes." "My name is Daniel. I believe you met my brother yesterday." She blinked. "Rick?" Daniel nodded. "And his daughter, Emily." Maya's jaw tightened, bracing for some kind of complaint, some backhanded apology on behalf of a family embarrassed by a headline. But Daniel's eyes didn't carry blame, only gratitude. "I came to thank you," he said. Maya stepped back, uncertain. For what? For doing something kind when no one else would. Her mother opened the front door, drying her hands on a dish towel, eyes narrowing at the sight of the stranger. "Everything okay out here?" Daniel turned and greeted her with a small bow of the head. "Ma'am, you raised a remarkable young woman." The next few minutes blurred. He didn't make a show of anything, no grand speeches, no promises he couldn't keep, just clarity and action. He explained who he was, what he did, that he'd seen the footage, that he'd spoken with Rick, that he knew what Maya had risked and what she'd lost. Then he handed her a folder. Inside, documents for a full scholarship to a nearby university, transportation stipend and living support. The pages felt heavier than paper, like they carried a different life. Maya stared, hands trembling. "I didn't help her for this." "I know," Daniel said. "That's why you deserve it." He looked around at the crumbling porch steps, the sagging gutter. "We'd also like to make some repairs here, nothing flashy, just safer, warmer. You shouldn't have to choose between your education and your home." Her mother sat down without realizing it, the towel slipping to her lap. Her mouth moved, but no words came. Maya looked at Daniel, then down at the documents, then back at him. All she could say was, "Thank you." He nodded once. "You're welcome, and thank you for showing my niece a better world than the one she was handed." That same morning, across the internet, the storm began. A clip no longer than 30 seconds, grainy footage from a security camera spread like wildfire. It showed Maya's soft protest, Emily's quiet confusion, the manager's cold dismissal, Tom's smirk. Some people called it soft-hearted disobedience, others called it heroism. Some attacked Maya, of course, said she violated protocol, that Hell's Angels didn't belong around children, but for every insult there were 5 voices in support. Hashtags began trending. Local news stations picked up the story. The event organizers scrambled to issue statements. Tom was placed on immediate suspension pending review. The manager refused comment, then went silent. One parent who'd witnessed the scene in person posted a thread. "I watched a young woman stand up for a child she didn't know in a world that told her not to, and they punished her for it. If that's not broken, I don't know what is." At a country estate 2 counties away, a pair of elderly parents watched the video in their oak-paneled study, the screen casting pale light over polished floors and worn regret. Rick's mother covered her mouth. His father stood up and walked slowly out of the room. 10 minutes later she followed. They didn't say much at first. They didn't need to. By nightfall, a message had been left on Rick's phone, short and trembling. Come home. Bring the girl. And for the first time in years, the door was open. The breeze that morning smelled like spring, earthy, warm, and just slightly sweet with magnolia. A year had passed, but the air still carried the same kind of quiet Maya remembered from that day, the one when the gates didn't open for everyone, only now everything felt different. The house she returned to each evening was no longer crumbling or gray. The porch had been rebuilt, strong and level. The walls had fresh paint, the kitchen held new appliances that didn't groan when used, and her mother, God bless her, no longer dragged herself in at midnight covered in bleach and sorrow. Instead, she worked part-time at the local community center, managing supplies, sharing warmth, teaching younger women how to stretch pennies into meals. There was peace there now, not luxury, but dignity, and that was more than enough. Maya herself had changed too. The textbooks were heavier, but the pages didn't scare her anymore. She was now in her final year of social work studies, interning directly under Daniel's foundation. Every morning she sat in on meetings that planned real programs that impacted real people. She listened, she spoke, she was heard. That alone still stunned her. But today wasn't about meetings or lesson plans. Today was about family. She parked beside a small auto garage tucked behind a diner at the edge of town. The smell of motor oil mixed with grilled onions in the air. Oddly comforting. The garage door was wide open, revealing Rick underneath a truck, humming to himself as if he finally had permission to be content. Nearby, Emily sat on a stool too tall for her, swinging her legs and scribbling in a notebook that sparkled with unicorn stickers. When Maya stepped out of the car, Emily saw her first. She dropped the notebook instantly and ran full sped into Maya's arms, knocking the breath out of her. "Maya! Maya!" Maya laughed, pulling her close, surprised by how tall the girl had grown in just 1 year. "Whoa, you gotten strong. What's in those arms, bricks?" Emily pulled back, eyes shining. "Guess what? For my birthday this year I got to see the whole concert, the whole thing." Maya blinked, then smiled. "You did?" "Yep. Front row, with real cotton candy, and nobody told us to leave." Rick had emerged now, wiping his hands on a rag, watching from a short distance with a smile that didn't need to be big to be real. "We got there early," he said. "Didn't want to miss anything this time." Maya stepped forward, shook his hand firmly. "Looks like you're back on your feet." "Something like that," Rick replied. "My folks didn't say much. Just gave me the keys to the old place, a line of credit, and one piece of advice. Don't waste it." "Guess I'm trying not to." Emily tugged Maya's sleeve. "Are you staying for lunch? Dad makes grilled cheese, like really good now." "I'll take your word for it." Maya laughed. "But I have somewhere I need to be." Rick nodded. "We'll see you around?" "Definitely," she said. She hugged Emily one more time and waved as she backed out of the lot, the engine humming beneath her hands, soft and steady. Later that afternoon, the Children's Music Festival returned to the same city park. New banners, newer equipment, but the same joyful chaos. Families streamed through gates held open wide, music blooming from the stage like confetti. This time, the woman at the gate wasn't scanning tickets. She was standing on the stage. Maya wore a navy blue blazer over her pressed shirt, a lanyard around her neck that read Community Partner Daniel Foundation. She didn't speak much, just smiled at the crowd, her eyes scanning row after row of squirming children, remembering what it felt like to sit outside the gates, watching joy from a distance. Now, she was here, inside, invited. A little girl in the front row looked up at her and grinned with missing teeth, clutching a stuffed giraffe. Maya smiled back, heart swelling. The host handed her the mic, but she shook her head and gently pushed it back. She didn't need to speak. The moment didn't belong to her. It belonged to the kids laughing in the grass, to the fathers who could walk in without being judged, to the staff who learned to see with less fear and more heart. She stepped off the stage, standing at the edge of the crowd, watching as the music began, bright and loud and full of promise. The camera pulled back slowly, rising with the light, the sound of children carrying into the sky, and in the quiet of her thoughts a voice rose. Not every act of kindness gets rewarded, but sometimes it changes a life. Sometimes it changes many. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to turn on the notification bell to start your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.